But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we. Is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the shirt.
You did. A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 3 of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. This is the 9x9 coverage of the Olympics. My name is Everett Delorme in Toronto. That is Rob St. Clair in Chicago. And this is the 81 square meters of the best volleyball content on the internet. And Rob, day number 3, it's the first day of only women's ball. We now have seen all of the women's teams, but a massive day for women's volleyball. We thought we only had one big match. In fact, we had two absolutely epic 5-setters. First and foremost, Türkiye with the reverse sweep over the Dutch. Brazil going 3-0 over Kenya, whatever. A back and forth game that saw China beating your United States of America, Rob, and that's basically what the chat is here to see.
Yeah,
I don't think they give a shit about any other of the matches except for our Turkish fans, of course. And then finally, France was not able to steal a set off of Serbia, and that was another.
And prove your take correct that they were going to win the first set.
You know what? It looked good for a little bit, Rob. It looked good for they went up by 1 in the first. Serbia looked a little bit rattled, but they were able to get it done. But so we're going to basically be talking about 2 of the matches today.
Yes, we are.
And touching on a third. But first and foremost, Rob, this was an absolute banger. Türkiye pulls off a reverse sweep on the Netherlands. And now, first and foremost, I think we need to give full respect to the Dutch.
Yes,
and
we do.
Maybe in our previews, we didn't pay them enough respect. Maybe we didn't really give them the praise that they deserve because they hadn't really shown us everything. But today, they showed it to us. Today, they came out flying. Today, they came out to play. And today, they made it difficult all the way to the end against a team that many think
gold
should win
medal
gold
aspirations
in this tournament.
Right. Absolutely. We owe, well, I personally owe the Netherlands several apologies. The one is just like projecting that they were going to be a complete non-factor on this Olympic Games. I'm very happy that I was wrong about that, especially because like one of the things we said in one of our previews, Everett, I can't remember which, but we're like, honestly, we hope that we're wrong about the Netherlands being irrelevant because it would like sort of validate their place in this Olympics and it would make the Olympic field better if they played competitively, and they did today. So they deserve a lot of credit for that, and I apologize for doubting them. I also apologize to every Dutch person who has ever listened to our show for our attempts at pronouncing Dutch names. My God, that language is absolutely impossible, and I didn't realize just how wrong I was about how I thought those names sounded until like we had the actual Olympics guide with like the players themselves recording pronunciations of their own names. So that's been very helpful, and I realized I was very wrong about how to say a lot of Dutch names. So I'm sorry, but you got to give us a break. Your language is very confusing.
Yeah, we're just English plebs over here. I may speak French, but that's nothing compared to all of the different languages.
Dutch is really something else.
Serbian and Italian and Polish. Like there's a lot of languages over here. But
right. So we'll try to be better about that. But to talk about this match, the Netherlands came out of the gates absolutely swinging. 9 a.m. in the morning local time, which, by the way, it turns out that all 3 of Türkiye's pool play matches are at 9 a.m. local, which is either a crazy coincidence or there's either like a TV scheduling or I have no idea what it is, but that's pretty remarkable. Netherlands looked outstanding early. And then in set number 2, they went on, I think it was an 8-0 run in the middle of the set off the serve of a middle blocker in Juliet Lohaus, whose name I learned how to pronounce. And they honestly kind of had Türkiye on the ropes in the third as well.
Bro, like, they did. Like that's the thing. The Türkiye is very, very lucky this wasn't a 3-dom.
Very lucky.
And it was really only those 2 errors by Dambrink that Türkiye is up 24-23. Dambrink has a swing to tie it up and just barely misses the sideline. And then they set her again in the back row, and she's just completely clams up and throws it right into the block, and that gives Türkiye a set point and keeps them alive in the third. But this was a game that, you know, I didn't watch it live because it was at 3 a.m. and I decided to sleep tonight at 3 a.m. because I didn't think it was going to be that good. Thank goodness for the Dutch because, you know, I watched this game back and I knew what happened, and it still had me on the edge of the seat.
Same here.
It still had
Same here.
me on the edge of my seat, because generally when you see a high seed beat a low seed in a reverse sweep, it goes to the fact like they kind of struggle through the first 2 sets, and then something happens in the third where you see that momentum switch, and there's just off to the races. And then that reverse sweep is almost like a proper 3-dong where they're just controlling it all throughout, and the lesser team kind of crumbles. Other than at certain key moments where they maybe just lost a little bit of focus, the Dutch didn't really crumble, right? The Turks would, like Türkiye would have a big play, and the Dutch would come right back and have a big play. They didn't step down from the moment whatsoever. And like, I think there needs to be so much credit given to this Dutch team, because there was just these little things in little moments that really broke down for them. I mean, how many team blocks? 15 team blocks.
They blocked them up tremendously well.
Yeah, was just incredible. 5 for Lohaus, 3 for Plock, 3 for Bayerns. Like, this is a team that blocked very, very, very well, and they kept it competitive.
Yeah, they did, and they blocked balls in big moments too, and they got a couple on Vargas in big moments. They were moving side to side. I thought that they kind of owned the middle of the court in a way that I was surprised against Türkiye. Now, it needs to be pointed out that one of our concerns about Türkiye going into this tournament was obviously their health, and this very first match was going to tell us a lot about that. Turns out Zara Güneş didn't even dress. She got moved to sort of the alternate position, and Beyza Araja was the third middle blocker. We didn't see her, but she dressed and Zara did not. You can like see her there in the photo at the very edge of it in street clothes. So we'll keep an eye on that. We hope to see Zara Güneş like in the knockout stages at least, should Türkiye get there, because I do think that if her presence was more of a part, or like the presence through the middle of the court for Türkiye through more of this match, I think that things could have been a little bit different. I think her absence was definitely felt.
Yeah, I think maybe just more in spirit, because I thought Kalec played very, very well.
Yeah, she was fine.
I thought she stepped up. I mean, she had a big ace. Was it in the 4th or the 5th?
I think it was the 5th.
I think it was the 5th with a really nice short serve to help them come back there a little bit. But you could tell that Türkiye was missing that edge a little bit, because consistently they were having to play catch up. Consistently, like
basically every set,
including
the 5th,
including the 5th. They were down to 6-3 at one point.
Yeah,
right. Like it was going, and I think, interestingly enough, Everett Karakurt, who was pretty average on the left side to begin the game, was brought in off the bench on that double sub, and both times it happened in the fourth and 5th. She was electric, and she was automatic. That, to me, I thought this was Santarelli's best coaching performance this year for Türkiye, the way he stepped up and the way he kind of egged that team on and really kept them going. Some of the decisions he was making in terms of like substitutions throughout, bringing Karakurt back in and allowing Vargas a little bit of time to rest, because she was getting so much volume throughout, and Karakurt just came in to be a little bit of a spark plug. Overall, I think Türkiye needs to be really, really happy with this performance. Sometimes you need to find wins when you're not playing well, and that's what they did today. They found a win when they weren't playing their best.
Yes, they did. They used 11 of the 12 players on the roster at some point in the match. Just a lot of movement. We saw all 5 outside hitters pretty much. We saw both setters. We saw just about every configuration that we could, including another player whose health we were concerned about coming into the tournament. That was Hande Baladin. And I think she deserves a lot of credit for helping to turn this match around, because like Ebrar Karakurt in the first 2 sets was not good in her outside hitter role.
No.
And then it became Baladin and Milia Diken for the most part from the 3rd set on. And Baladin was so clutch, especially in longer rallies. And she got a couple blocks and digs late. Perfect L2 role veteran volleyball, and I don't think Türkiye wins that match without her. So that should be reassuring for Turkish fans with her health concerns coming in.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even know if she was going to be dressing for this match, or maybe she would have been dressing, but definitely not playing. What we were hearing is that she wasn't going to be playing until past the pool play into the playoff round. So the fact that she was able to dress and start in the first 2 sets, I found that she was a little bit lukewarm. You could tell she was taking some time to get back into it. But in the 3rd set, offensively, I think she really came alive. In the 4th set, her she got a block in her off-ball play. She made
Yeah.
4 of her
Yeah.
8 digs in that 4th set, and she was just able to keep some plays alive. And you could tell that's kind of when she was getting back into the rhythm of the game. And the same thing, they were down, what was it, 21-17 in the 4th, about that.
They were down
And
20-17
20 to 17,
when they
and
made a big run.
it was her block was the first point to kind of like, she got a big block on the right side to kind of slow things down. She went back, hug Santarelli right away, but you could see different Turkish players step up at different points throughout this match. And I think that's one thing that was massive, is that, yeah, sure, Vargas was an absolute beast. And what did she score? 29, which
30.
is 30, right? Which is honestly kind of expected at this point, which is nuts to even think about. But she was the pillar around, like, the rest of the Turkish team was really passing the baton around, at stepping up at different moments and big times. Because like you said, they were consistently playing catch up in this game, and they were consistently making like bad mistakes too. Like they made a bad mistake to give the Dutch an advantage late in the 5th, up at like 11-10 or something. I forget what it was, but they weren't really there mentally at times, and they left the door open. They made a lot more errors than the
30 total versus 23 for the Netherlands. And I mean, we've gone through this whole discussion so far and have not yet brought up Melissa Vargas until a second ago, and she dropped 30, 29 of 68 attacking, 68 attempts, 11 errors, only 264 efficiency, plus 1 stuff block. Definitely not the best match in terms of like entire body of work for one of the best players in the world, but there's no way Türkiye wins that match without her. She basically single-handedly won the 4th set after point 20, and then that ball that she killed to win the match at 14-13, the angle that ball came from after a horrendous pass, like that ball was passed or bump set to her from the baseline, and she was able to go straight over the block to win the match. Like almost no other player on the planet could have taken that swing, and if it hadn't been for her, who knows, maybe the Netherlands steals that in overtime. So big volume for Vargas, mediocre efficiency, but she was big when they needed her to be.
Yeah, and absolutely. And her ability to score after 20 is Kobe-like. She walks in and she goes high off the block. She goes over the top. She goes underneath. She chisels it off the sides. She goes hard cross. She has so many shots to be able to go to. And you can almost see, like, especially in those out of system situations, and it's almost worse for the blockers because they're going up, they're setting up, they're going to try to time it on her. And it's like, what is she going to do? Because if you close off one angle, she just opens up another one. She is so good.
So gifted. It's amazing.
I do want to give a shout out to Julian Nolema and Nika Dalderop from the Dutch. I think they both had pretty solid games for the Netherlands in this one.
Yeah, 15 points each. Not great efficiency for either, but honestly, like, I don't think you can expect really that much more out of either of those players. I think they did their jobs quite well. And the Netherlands, with their win condition is going to be from balance and from basically everybody contributing as much as possible. Yep. And if they don't get balance from every position, I mean, they were terrific in the middle. They had Lowhouse 13, buy-ins 12, like 25 points in the middle combined is awesome, and they're going to have to keep doing that. Both opposites, Plock and Dombrink, were like just okay. I feel like that one position could have been a little bit better for him, but like
better. But I think that's
ask that much more about who the Netherlands is right now. You can't ask much more out of them than what.
Oh no, they were playing outside of themselves in this match.
I agree.
Right? This is not the typical Dutch team that we see on a regular basis. Now with that's what the Olympics does, right? It makes you play outside of yourself. It makes you play kind of at your peak. Outside of yourself is maybe out of line. I wouldn't say that they're outside of their ability, but keeping up this level for them is not something that they've ever done consistently. Right. But it does give them a really, really good shot of potentially moving on in this pool. Now that matchup against the Dominican Republic is even bigger. Even their matchup against Italy, right? And let's remember that is going to be a rematch of last year's European Championship bronze medal, where the Dutch maybe took advantage of a little bit of Italian turmoil. So that one's going to be interesting too. But I think this match, with the Netherlands opening things up the way that they did, if they can continue at this level, which is going to be an ask for them, I think that they have the ability to play spoiler and potentially qualify for the next round.
It's possible, yeah, and it makes Pool C just top to bottom way more interesting. It makes every match involving both the Netherlands and the Dominican Republic more interesting because both of those teams have shown pretty solid signs of life so far through one match. And the Netherlands get a point in the standings, like you said, which gives them an excellent chance if they can beat the Dominican Republic and put up an okay fight against Italy. They could easily be looking at a quarterfinal spot.
Yeah. 100%. I think they came to play today, and they almost have that thing. It's like, hey, we are the last team to qualify. We're one of the lower teams here. We are technically the lowest team in our pool. Let's just go out there and ball out. Let's just go out there and see and put out the best performance we can and see what happens. And they came away with a point, which is absolutely massive, especially at these Olympics.
So, yeah, it doesn't get easier for the Netherlands. They have Italy next on Thursday. Türkiye has the Dominican Republic on Thursday. That pool is going to continue to be fun. You know what was not fun, Everett? This. Brazil 3-0 Kenya, 14-13-12. Brazil had 16 blocks in 3 sets. I would like to move on now.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, first of all, these Brazilian jerseys, though, I really like them. I really
You're into the collars?
I'm into the collars. It's just old school. They look old school. They look clean.
I'm not sure if I like the collars, but I respect the collars.
I had some collar jerseys when I was in my club days, and I liked them.
We had some, I think, my freshman year of high school.
Yeah, it's just I think it's a clean look, especially like if you go with an old school style, and I really like. I like the numbering too.
I also like the numbering. Well, that's more discussion on Brazil's uniforms than the actual volleyball played in this game because there's nothing to talk about here, and there's not even any conclusions that we can pull about how Brazil's playing. Not against.
I mean, at the end of the day, they did take care of business kind of consistently, and I think that is one thing to pull from it. But like, how often do you see teams kind of maybe dominate in the first and the second, and maybe put bring their foot off the gas a little bit? Whether
sometimes it's like that'll happen against like the French women. Serbia today is a great example. Like that third set was much closer, or the Egyptian men. But this Kenyan women's team is so much worse than either of those teams.
But to me, it's not about what the Kenyan women are doing, and it's all about the mentality on your own side of the net. Right?
Most of the time, I agree with you.
That's all the time. It doesn't matter the quality of a team. You're always going to see sometimes a team play down to another team's level. And I think it is a distinct thing to note that they did essentially hour and shower them and get better throughout. Like that
56 minutes start to finish.
A legit hour and shower, which is crazy at the Olympic Games, what is also expected. But no, I do think that there is something to be said about Brazil's mentality of like that. To me, shows a team that's locked in, right? That to me shows a championship pedigree team that's locked in. They came in as a business trip. They had a job to do, and they got it done. They didn't rest on their laurels. They didn't let a team back in. They didn't let them go on any runs. They didn't let themselves go and make errors. I think that is really, really good sign if you're the Brazilian women. I would much rather be a Brazilian fan right now after this 3-0 over Kenya and the way they did it than being an American fan and the way they lost the last game.
Yeah, obviously. We'll get to that. Let's look at the standings in this pool. Brazil gets the easy win. Poland, also the other team in this pool, with 3 points. Japan has the 1 set, but wasn't able to get a point in that 4th set against Poland yesterday. So coming up next in this pool, Brazil versus Japan on Thursday. Going to be a huge one. And then Poland versus Kenya, so Poland can get their free 3 more points.
Yeah, Japan needs.
They need a point.
They need a point.
Yep.
They need.
And all those teams, all Brazil and Japan do is play 5-set bangers. So the odds are in Japan's favor to at least get a point. But they need one. If they fail to get a point, they are in big trouble.
Although we are still on the dock here of Brazil potentially. Like if Japan somehow pulls out like a 3-0 or a 3-1, who knows? Who knows what happens? Also,
Pool C, now that one match has been played by every team in this pool, it's going to be real fun. We got the 3-2-1-0 point split, and Dominican, the team in last right now, has a set win on the board, and there's still going to be a lot of fun volleyball to be played. But if Dominican fails to get any points against Türkiye in their next match, which is a very difficult draw for them, it's likely curtains on their quarterfinal chances.
With the Dutch pushing this the way they did, I don't think that there's a easy or uninteresting match in this pool anymore.
Exactly.
I think
like that.
every match matters, and especially since there's so many question marks around the Turkish team and their health, around the team from the Dominican Republic, because we haven't really seen them yet this summer. We saw flashes of good stuff against Italy yesterday, but really not a full match strung along. That Dominican versus Dutch match, I think, is going to be very, very interesting in a few weeks' time, or not in a few weeks' time, in a few days' time.
Right. I agree. All right. That's Pool C and Pool B. We got a lot to talk about Pool A still. But before we do that, two important things to remind you. The first is that if you want to pick up a subscription to VBTV, which many of you already have, but if you want to renew a subscription or pick up a new one, or maybe kick a little back to your good friends here at Volleyball Source, we have a direct link that links to us as a referral in the description of this YouTube video. So if you want to get your subscription ready for the fall, or if you're a beach fan, or if you just want to get it going for the Super Lega season, club season coming up, pick up a VBTV subscription with the exact link in the description of this video. That would help us out a lot.
Absolutely. And while you're at it, and while you're on the phone or online, you could head over to shop.vdw.com and pick up your official Paris 24 Olympic game balls from Mikasa. You get the official indoor, you can get the official beach. You can get all of them. Sorry, it's shop.volleyballworld.com.
We got a link in the description for that too.
Yeah, so you can check that out, and you can get the official ones. You can get the not the knockoff ones, but the in-betweener. You can get the little sign balls.
Minis.
Although I do love to pepper with those. Right?
What, the minis?
Yeah,
they're fun.
Yeah, the peppering with the minis, I would always make like juniors, like U12s, U11s, that kind of stuff. Pepper with the minis, because it's a lot less forgiving, and you need to be more clean with your hand contact.
I've got a mini behind me, I think. I've got a bunch of volleyballs on this couch behind me. I would like to add one of these to my collection.
Ooh, and
so yeah.
Do a beach or an indoor one?
I already have an indoor Mikasa, so I would consider getting a beach one.
Ooh, the beach one, the new beach ones are really nice.
That's what I've heard.
I like them a lot.
So yeah, hit the link in our bio, or our description if you want one of those. All right, it's time, Everett. It's time for what most of the people came for. It's time to talk about the United States versus China.
It is, Rob, and this one was really an absolute banger from the beginning. We almost potentially had two reverse sweeps in this one.
Almost.
Rob, can we almost break this match up and talk about it in two parts, and the first two sets, and then the last two sets? Because
I think that's exactly the right way to process this thing that was.
This was a tale of two teams, a tale of two cities, Charles Dickens, if you will. And I think a lot of the question marks have to come down to the all-time GOAT in Karch Kiraly. The decision making in terms of personnel, to me, it seems like Karch is living in the past. It seems like he's living with a team that is no longer around and unwilling to rely on younger talent, and I don't know why. I absolutely don't know why.
That's it. Karch Kiraly, with the lineup choices that he made today to start this match, starting Kelsey Robinson and Jordan Larson, and Haley Washington in the middle. I was less bothered by that, but I thought that Dana Retke needed to be inserted with the way that China was destroying our block in the first two sets by going straight over the top of every time they swung. And you have one of the tallest players in the field and you leave her on the bench. That didn't make sense. The outside hitter choices it's just baffling to me. What more do you need to see? What more do you need to see than Catherine Plummer next to Kelsey Robinson play an entire season for Corneliana, which Karch Kiraly confirmed to my face when we interviewed him in Arlington, Texas during VNL, that he looks at that. He looks at club performances very carefully. He went over to Italy in person and saw Corneliano's playoff run. He saw directly the way that Catherine Plummer and Kelsey Robinson Cook played next to each other. What more do you need to see? This isn't Tokyo anymore. Everybody else in the world is completely different than they were in Tokyo 3 years ago, and we just refused to be for two sets and played some of the worst volleyball I've ever seen. And it was nothing but Karch Kiraly's decision-making. Jordan Larson and Kelsey Robinson Cook could not score. And they could not score because it's not strengths in their play styles, and it's not something they were willing to do to be aggressive enough to even try. Kevin Barnett on the American broadcast was going in on the decision making and on just the play style choices, and he was right to do so. Because Kelsey Robinson and Jordan Larson refused to even try to score, China's block was absolutely all over us everywhere else. They had no respect at all for any of the attackers in the left side position. They only had to worry about blocking 2 areas on the court. And then to not even attempt to get Catherine Plummer in there until the beginning of the 3rd set, using Avery Skinner off the bench before Catherine Plummer, is crazy to me. What more do you need to see? How much harder do you need to get stomped on by a team who's abusing you by your own lineup choices to make any changes? That was probably the most frustrating 2 sets of volleyball I have ever watched because it was completely self-inflicted. Now, I give a lot of credit to China, man, because they played awesome volleyball the first 2 sets. Their middles were all over us. Now, again, their jobs were extremely easy. I mean, those 2 straight commit one-on-one shutdowns on Shakabogu in the 2nd set. I'm like, what on earth kind of an offense are we running? What are we doing here? But also, how about Zhu Ting, man? Zhu Ting. I was very, very impressed by the way that she tore us up for 2 sets.
Yeah, to me, I'm just going to jump on the Karch hate here
Please.
for a second, because when do we have a chance to go after Karch? This is a golden opportunity here. The starting lineup to me seemed pedantic, right? It just seemed like they were out there to get some experience in, especially when you're playing China. Like, to me, this lineup might have made sense against a Serbia, against a Serbian team that's high-powered offense and is known to make errors. Then maybe you throw in Larson and Kelsey Robinson Cook so they can pass well. You can run your offense. You can make some digs and then convert it that way. But against a China who arguably play the exact same style that you do, except they have better players in the majority of the positions, and players who can make a difference, like a Li Yingying, who was the best player out there consistently.
We'll get to her 5th set performance when we talk about the second half of this match. My God, It was unbelievable.
Yeah, but like the reality is that you need someone out there, and if you need to go with either Larson or Kelsey Robinson Cook, right? To me, you have to go with Kelsey Robinson Cook. The way that she's played consistently on at the pro level. Because then what you ended up happening is just them forcing Annie Drews as much as possible early on and forcing those middles early on. And that to me was why China's middles just feasted on you guys in the first 2 sets. Because if it was a tight ball situation, especially with Poulter in the front row, and Poulter is not the most mobile of setters, especially with that big knee brace that she's coming back from injury. There was a few times that she just had to dish it up to the middle, and China was all over it. Their game, like, they knew the game plan coming in. But especially, like, if you're going out there against Kelsey Robinson Cook and Jordan Larson, you're like, well, like, we're a really good blocking team. We can shut them down, and that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. I think the fact that we saw Zhu Ting, like, we've been hearing this entire time that Zhu Ting was going to be coming off the bench from most of our Chinese fans, and that's what we believed. But man, if Li Yingying is going to be running this outside hitter system, or sorry, not Li Yingying, I apologize. If China is going to be running this outside hitter system of Li Yingying, Zhu Ting, and Gong on the right side,
Gong was really good today.
That's going to be deadly. Zhu Ting is your ideal situation as a classic P2 who could still score in so many different situations. This was a really, really good performance from China. And I think this is the first time they've beat the United States since like 2004, since like Athens at the Olympics.
Man. I have 2 things to add kind of off of what you said. The first is I agree, like the choosing to start Cook and Larson, I kind of agree with what you said about you're just trying to like feel it out and get your feet wet in the Olympics. Which makes no sense. This is the Olympic Games, dude.
You have 3 games guaranteed.
Exactly. I've been critical of Karch this quad for focusing on the process too much And when the product clearly has not been there. The results of this quad for the American women have not been good. And they did sort of a similar thing going into Tokyo. The results were there, but they were also extremely focused on the process. And that was going to be put to the ultimate test for this Olympics. If sacrificing the results of this entire quad, 3 bad VNLs, a bad world championship, and a failure at Norseca's that we didn't win. We should win that tournament every single time we bring our A team.
If you send the team, absolutely.
If you send the team, we should never ever lose the Norseca championship. No. After a bad quad, was it going to pay off? Was the result going to be there after sacrificing the result this entire quad? And starting Larson and Cook made me think that he was still committed more to the process than the result. This is the Olympic Games. This is the Olympic Games. And with this format, you get less guaranteed matches at the Olympic Games than ever. An entire 3-year process in this case, normally 4, for 3 matches guaranteed, and that's the foot you put forward to start the tournament. The other problem is that if you're going to do that with Larson and Cook, you better be in system all the time. They weren't. We did not pass the ball well for those 2 sets. And if we're not going to pass the ball well, those 2 players on the floor, they don't belong on the floor. They have no value to us on the floor if they're not going to pass the ball well.
No.
And that goes back to the reception chemistry. When have Kelsey Robinson and Jordan Larson passed next to each other like ever? That's never a lineup configuration that we've run. Kelsey Robinson and Catherine Plummer won more championships than matches they lost this club season, passing next to each other for 8 months straight. If we can't pass the ball and we also can't score, then we might as well do what we ended up doing in the 3rd set to kind of transition in the second half of the match here and put in the players who weren't going to pass any better or worse, but could actually score and were willing to be aggressive enough to take chances to score. And Catherine Plummer and Avery Skinner, who in both of those players' first Olympics, with their backs against the wall, given the cards they were dealt and how bad we played those first 2 sets, I loved what I saw from those 2 players.
Well, so for me, Rob, and as we transition from the first half of this game to the second half, we've always talked so much about about the USA being a systematic team, about them playing their system. Together they are better. You know, the sum of their parts is you know what I mean.
Whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Always is supposed to be for this team.
Always is supposed to be. But once again, China is also a team that plays that way. Right. But they have fantastic scoring as well from Li Yingying. But there was certain situations, and where, especially in that second set, in that 8-point run, where they were like, Gong was getting easy tips over the block, or I think it was Li Yingying actually getting points with easy tips over the block, where Justine Wong Arantes, who was on the line, is pulling all the way back, and the right side attacker at the time, I'm pretty sure it was Thompson, was still sitting in 2.
Yeah, our off-speed defense is not good.
It's stuff that like that needs to be your bread and butter that are taken up, and there's so many times that balls that maybe should have been up were just watched fall, and especially in those first 2 sets. I think the attitude change when you saw Avery Skinner and Catherine Plummer come in late in that 3rd set was completely different. Then you saw the team have a little bit of edge. Us on the Discord, we were expecting Catherine Plummer to take that kind of like FU spot, I'm going to start swinging away. But surprisingly, it was Avery Skinner.
Yeah.
But to me, the big difference, the big difference in that set was the play of Justine Wong Arantes, because her ability to make digs that weren't getting done beforehand, make digs and make plays and keep rallies alive and pass better and just take advantage of the entirety of the court. She had 1 dig in the second set.
Wow.
One dig in the second set, and then she had 7 in the third.
Wow.
And to me, you could see the way that she was approaching the game, that she was disconnected in the third, and then she reconnected she was disconnected in the second, and then reconnected in the third. And she started making those little plays that we know and love her to make. And that, to me, bolstered the rest of the team. It gave them the ability, because that's really when kind of things turned around.
Right.
Avery Skinner was unreal with Avery.
She was. And there's a relationship there with the way that things turned around, because not only did Justine Wong Arantes start to make those plays, but we had athletes on the floor that were willing to take the swings to capitalize on them.
Yes.
But before that, those first 2 sets, even if we got balls up in transition, Jordan Larson and Kelsey Robinson-Cook were tipping the balls right into the heart of the defense and getting nothing out of it. And because we finally had threatening attackers on the left side of the court and through the pipe to a little less degree, I actually wish we would have run that a little bit more. It allowed the offense to open up everywhere else. It's volleyball 101. If you have threatening attackers everywhere, it makes opposing blockers' jobs a lot harder, and it did. China's block was significantly less effective than it was in the first 2 sets. And the other player that we haven't talked about yet, but need to, who is completely responsible for the U.S. getting a point out of this match, which had we not, our tournament hopes could be very much in jeopardy, is Annie Drews.
100%.
Annie Drews dropped 29 points, and she is not a player who's used to taking on that kind of volume. That is not like her game.
Dude,
she was not good to start the match either, but she pulled herself out of it, ended up with 29 points, 26 for 51 attacking. That's 50% termination rate, which is exactly what we needed, and 353 efficiency plus 3 stuff blocks. That is one of the very best matches I personally have ever seen her play, and I've known Annie since freshman year of college at Purdue. She was awesome today.
I'm going to push back on the fact that she wasn't great in the first 2 sets. She had 5 in the first, which led the U.S. in scoring, and she had 7 in the second.
She was great in the second. The first set, she wasn't as good.
I mean, she was the only American player scoring. And I think once again, as we talked about it, the passing wasn't great. Poulter isn't that mobile, and she was hitting a lot of balls off the net and out of system, right? But she was consistently, like, her worst set she scored 5 points, right? Like that's how it was. Of course, in the fifth, it was a little bit different. Actually, no, in the fifth, she still scored 6, right? It's like that's how, like, her worst set was the first set, and she still scored 5 points and was 4-1, 4 kills and a block. So I think she consistently was the best player. Now, one of the conversations that I think we have to have is Poulter or Carlini. Like, was Poulter good enough for you today? Because I thought she was very, very lukewarm, especially in transition.
Yeah.
There was a lot to be left desired there for Jordan Poulter.
Yeah, a lot of left side balls that weren't located well. They were too fast and they died low, and that's not a good recipe for especially Skinner and Plummer, who need a higher ball and can go up higher and get those balls against decently big blockers. And then the other thing is, if you're trying to, like, quickly give a ball to the outside and overload a small setter who's blocking on the right side, that ball at least has to get all the way out so that you can hit that shot and score against her. And that wasn't really happening. Location was mediocre. Set choices were okay. We'll kind of see how she looks in the next game. Going forward, my opinion is that we need to start Plummer and Cook, because I think that Avery Skinner, while she was an awesome spark plug off the bench, I think once teams get a hold of film on her, she's going to start getting stuff blocked a lot. She was pretty one-dimensional in transition. It was very exclusively angle, and all it takes is for one team to realize that and move the block in a foot and a half, and she's going to start getting clamped on all those swings. So I want to see Plummer and Cook from here out. I really do, and I've been saying it literally all summer.
I don't disagree with you. However, I think with the way Avery Skinner played, she wasn't great in that fifth. I will give you that. She wasn't fantastic in the fifth, but I think you need to give her a shot. Like, she brought you back into that game. She had 8 in the third, 7 in the fourth. Like, she was gangbusters, and I thought that Catherine Plummer did a really good job of settling into that P2 kind of role, where she was still scoring. Like, she still had 5 points, 5 points in the fourth, but she was passing well and she was playing defense. She just brought a little bit of that fuck you, arrogant attitude that the United States should have.
We need it.
And it wasn't there with the pedantic opening roster.
No.
It wasn't there with the starting lineup. But on the other side, Rob, I think that you have to give China, like, it wasn't all due to the mismanagement on the American side why they lost. I think a lot of credit needs to be given to China. I think in a lot of ways, they probably should have walked away with this one in 3 sets. They didn't manage that Plummer and Avery Skinner and just, like, the change of the American attitude and that pushback. But man, that fifth set from China, like, you could tell how much they wanted it and how much it meant to them.
That's what I wanted to bring up, kind of to put a bow on this match. Li Yingying's numbers in the fifth set were like nothing I may have ever seen before. Yeah. 9 points. Of their 15 points, she herself had 9 points. She went 8 for 10 attacking and a stuff block. 700 efficiency. and 9 points out of a team's 15 in a fifth set. That is a player who is top 3 in the world at her position that says, all right, screw this, get on my back. I'm taking us to the finish line here. And that is terrifying for the rest of the world.
Terrifying.
But she just did that. It was
terrifying.
I had nothing but I could do nothing but respect it. She was automatic.
Yep.
I mean, there was a ball. She ran an inside ball, like on sort of the 32 spot, and she turned it cross body 4-4 and put it to like the 3-foot line on the sideline. It was absolutely sick.
I do think she got a bit of a ricochet off the block, but it was going hard cross. Yeah. I think if you are anyone in the volleyball world right now and you watch what China did today, because there was a lot of moments where the United States actually played well, right? And I think if you boil down the match from sets 3 to 5, like that is essentially where you really got a good match. And once China started getting back into it, is a little bit different. But if you watch the way China played today and you look at that lineup, up and down, they're not showing a lot of weaknesses.
Nope.
They're not.
The setter position, Diao and Yu would be the only one that I can think of. I mean, China did not pass the ball well in sets 3 and 4, but I didn't love the way she handled the pushback that the United States showed. But other than that, like their attackers, I thought were terrific. I mean, Wu Mingji off the bench was pretty good. Gong on the right side was really good. The middles, all 3 of them that we saw, I thought were terrific. Like China's really solid, man. They're really solid. I cannot wait to see them play Serbia and see how that goes.
There is no team in the world that has a left side pairing like Li Yingying and Zhu Ting. There is no team in the world that has a pairing like that can pass and play defense and score in system, out of system. You've got Li Yingying, who's, I'm not going to say she's young, but she's younger than Zhu Ting. And then you have Zhu Ting, who is like an Olympic MVP.
Yep.
Right. You have an Olympic MVP as your P2.
Oh, Lee's only 24. I thought she was older than that for some reason. Yeah, she was awesome. I was super impressed.
Yeah. So this is like, I think right now, and we haven't watched Brazil much because obviously they just 3-donged Kenya easily. But China and Brazil right now are looking like the most complete teams at this Olympic tournament.
Maybe. So that's that match. I got to speed this thing along a little bit, Everett. I got to get out of here in the next probably 5 minutes or so. Fortunately, we have very little else to talk about. Serbia 3-dong France. It was like kind of I was making fun of it in the Discord. This is a polite donging. It was almost a pleasant donging. But a donging nonetheless.
It was one of those ones where like Serbia, other than that, there was a moment, and it was like 13-12, I think, in the first, where France took the lead. And I was like, yes, here we go. My prediction is coming true. They've got a good vibe going. Like that intro for them was electric. They're feeling good. Serbia is going to take some time to get going. Like, let's go. And then Serbia got going it. But it was one of those ones that like France continued with a valiant effort all the way through.
The effort was there.
The effort was there, and the play was there. Unfortunately, no, Elena Cazot, she had a wrap around her upper thigh, and I guess she's still injured, and we didn't see her. But overall, I think, once again, this Serbian team, to me, it shows that they're dialed in. It shows that they're dialed in. 8 aces, 14 blocks.
Yeah, that breakpoint generation is off the charts, especially the first 2 sets. They were everywhere in the blocking game. Also, Hannah Kurtigic at age 19 got the start in the middle.
She's looking good.
That's good.
Yeah, she was looking good. 8 points for her, 5 blocks and an ace. Attacking was all right. She was 2 for 4 with an error, but only getting set 4 times and doubling up her points is kind of gross.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh,
France, especially when Cazot went out, France could not pass the ball. No. Their reception was tough to watch.
Yeah, it was. But I think
as for chances to steal a set in this pool, like unless they get another like totally stinker performance out of the USA when they play us, I don't see France taking a set.
No, me neither. I thought their only good option and only good opportunity to get a set in this tournament was in the first set against Serbia, because that Serbian team hadn't really played, and they I was really I was really pushing for the knock out of the park with them winning a set. too. Like I had to set up like the perfect situation for them to win a set, and they weren't able to get it done. They were almost able to get it done towards the end of the match in the third set there, Rob, but
Almost.
But we're unable to get it done.
Yep. So Pool A, of course, it's actually completely backwards in terms of the seed order. Serbia is technically the 4 seed. They're on top. China, the 3 seed in second, then followed by the USA and France. Again, it can't overstate how important it is that the USA was able to salvage a point out of that match today. Like with how bad that we looked, we kind of saved our tournament potentially by getting to a 5th. And we weren't going to beat Li Yingying the way she was playing in that 5th set, but the fact that we got a point might just save our tournament. So honestly, I'm happy. I'm like breathing a sigh of relief in terms of the result, because for those first 2 sets, that was some of the worst volleyball I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. Now the big question is, will Karch go back to the original starting lineup, or what's that starting lineup gonna look like moving forward for this team? But
we've only got 1 day off, and then we play Serbia next, so we have a very difficult schedule.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to throw up the schedule for tomorrow before we leave there? First and foremost, the early game, 3 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. in Paris, Italy versus Egypt. Rob, I will not be getting up for the early game on this one because this
is such a good schedule.
This is a really good schedule. USA, Germany to kick us off. That one I think is going to be a really, really interesting match.
I'll be up bright and early for that one.
It's going to me, this one's going to prove to see if the Americans are legit, right? You've played
the same for Germany, honestly. Like
100%. Whoever wins this match is going to come away with a lot of street cred, and it's going to be interesting. Next up, you have Slovenia, Serbia, which could be a very interesting one. I'm really hoping Serbia plays some spoilers in there. And then Maple Volley is going down against the hosts and defending champs at home at 3 p.m.
Steven Marr is going to pop off. I said it yesterday, and I stand by it. He is going to pop off against France tomorrow.
Hey, if he can
25
points
points
so
that
we can get at least get a point, that would be great.
25.
That would be great. That would keep
for Marr. I'm calling it.
Keep us alive. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching and tuning in. Remember, go grab your official Mikasa Paris 2024 balls at the shop.volleyballworld.com. And we will see you tomorrow, more or less the same. Actually, no, we're going to see you
probably later.
Probably a little bit later. I'm hoping tomorrow's game is in a 3-dong, unless it's 3-dong for the other way. Yeah, maybe Engapeth and the boys go hard tonight in the village.
Maybe they do.
But all right, guys, we will see you later. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for watching.